Hello. This is a video regarding Holocaust treatment and regarding the German defense of themselves too, saying they're just following orders. Both are leaving out and having left out what was fluent through our countries A through Z from before that. No, and the value of what had roles with slavery and uses of it still. And then overtly / insidiously simultaneously, and that was evidence too. So we have to admit for ourselves through the people that force representation of ourselves in logic as grouped. They're preventing finite individual truths in exception nature. Even our family members, when we're not around them, if we don't, against everyone, through other motivations, everyone was used. For example, with slavery, revelations come from the short words that are true always. People were made to self-value roles with a breaching method employed, system of laws tied to databases, tied to quality of treatments of disputes, resolutions, treat offensively. In other words, they were already inclusion at locations with instances between individuals and others. So CNN, please follow mandated law. I'll show you this. This is what was actually recorded. Your sources in the FBI recorded lying to you. They're self-valuing roles. They can't defend their convictions and opinions and not self-value what is off campuses. Already everyone missed it. And then on and off all campuses, private database relationships at the same time. Everything that was already brought manifest, individual grouped together, qualities of fact-shaping nature. They can't defend themselves. And what was taught and how they were taught to defend themselves. And us from what exploits that. For example, in other words, I've been asking for a response because these are also people involved with the World Trade Center attack, the investigators before that. And this is where and how, we had to represent our identities where hundreds of nations are shared here and there, where they fight with each other. It forced them to make uses of our identities and defend those treatments of law that leave out that quality of fact-shaping nature that is capable of being a quality of fact-shaping nature, capable of properly explaining and discerning the method /S that more so how computers are working, have to work, this archetypal hyper-criminal enterprise works that has modern countries, A through Z, as criminal enterprises, following orders that can't defend themselves at the same time. There's a difference between having music in the background and teaching about people that kill each other and those disputes. And doing it in the furtherance and pretending, the same thing. I'm just following orders. The people that are answering the phones for CNN, I never called CNN. I don't know, then there's more things I have to talk about because they replaced the phone conversations with fabricated emails. And they pretend they don't know about the fabricated phone conversations. People that have been involved coordinating predicate acts that are fact-shaping nature oriented and that extended themselves and their family members involved with that. So they have to specifically to have them play these things with. In other words, they have people calling in the police since they were each grade level, each building, because of the uses of the building, the locations, all. And then they kept that to collusion with all locations that for fact-shaping nature, identity thefts and frauds. That's another thing that is demonstrated all ways. by all the different opinions and conviction natures. In other words, with history, experts, and regular opinions as arrays in the furtherance of the same thing, /s. So all we need is to really have mandated law followed as the love of a parent. For the human volume has a hypersyntax conjunction that there is only one. And boxing is fun, but one way alone to reach that place. It's not because we didn't try. In other words, the nature has to lead us. What really is going to cause positive or negative value nature progressions, action natures? Not a foundation since before cars and trucks and building equipment. As suburbs, tactically denatured to cause negative value nature progressions, action natures. Not to wipe out the Native Americans, to take away, make them forget the perfect education that had been revealed by as that conjunction to our species identity of life, why we are, how we are, and how we are individuals, grouped. This is hypervolume science. And species identity of volume. Species body, one. Individual body, one. Any group has to be, all exceptions and exception nature are in demonstration of the same thing. And they're in demonstration about what exception and exception nature is about simultaneously. And or hyper-exception nature, rather. Because there are, in other words, thank God, when we say thank God is hyperpantheist, we have to reveal another religion too, because of the collusion between the religious locations as well, with this identity theft / fraud method /s, offensively making exceptions and totally making them up about how they're tied to other people. You have to the intelligence community, that includes judges. Their roles with people repeating things, and then they pretend other people said those things. In other words, they're just through time, and then those people are making uses of that and putting their more fake things in. We have campuses that are recorded 24/7. There's phenomena where and how the directors of agencies and judges self-value where they have roles. People that work for the courts, everyone, they conspire, collude with overt criminal enterprises, other countries' militaries that fight with each other too. And in other words, it's all maintains roles where they keep, in other words, fact-cheaping nature, expertise, criminally foreign influence, simultaneously delusion was wrought, simultaneously as natures that are sequence shifting. They're starting fights with Americans overtly / insidiously. They're sustaining aggressions on them and keeping all communications platforms forced inclusion. They have it per this method. The only reason they're able to maintain it multi-front is because they maintain locations, areas, and states, forcing leaders to collusion with what can't entertain itself and defend locations, areas, and states from that which was a method that was already engineered, entertained, between a whole bunch of different ways, motivations, natures, needs, interests. In other words, there are the short words, that and how people were forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded, and worse, by a breaching method at all locations, areas, and states, intercolonies in America before they were states. They were still states of humanity. Just like all the pieces of the body, all the identities of the cells, the identities of the bodies of the organs they make up. They have semi-nature relationship to your complete identity at once. The simultaneous identity, the hyper-simultaneous nature identity is two further. In other words, we have a species one, body one. And because there's one identity of hyper-simultaneous that is only going to stay positive or negative to itself. But there is also the quality of criminal insidiousness, natures of positive treatments. For example, I'm not a lawyer, not a police force, not a criminal, not a doctor. Recorded proofs that I would have been, but since before the World Trade Center attack, shortly before it, people recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles and uses of locations, intercities, that were our inclusion with the on-off campuses parts. And control your hearts, because people pretend passions and emotions outside of courts and inside of courts and outside of police stations, inside of the police stations, the way they won't if you follow mandated law. And because they've been attaching people, I never I had a conversation with the FBI in my life. I tried to a couple times, which would have stopped bad things, and they hid it. And they hid worse for other motivations, natures, needs, interests. You have people that defend, in other words, New York City is living proof of a breaching method effectively being and having been employed, blamed on others, and having its own, what it causes, where nature demonstrates the breaching method existing. And how it demonstrated existing, though. But we have to bring up others. Forgiveness is not to give up, but to have a quality of fact treatment nature to counter human fact treatment nature. Values treatments, evidences treatments, complete possession, self-valued, and that used remotely. And that is where the self-valued altogether is involved too. So the countries are hurting each other because they have a whole bunch of state locations, areas of states. Overt criminal enterprises, private in the sciences, in layers. Further, because the databases are tied to it, and the private simultaneously. And people that need the high life progressions because they're ties to body dumping spots and things like that, where investigations go on all the time. And more and more and more, there are qualities of fact, treatment, nature, collusion, against the nature of the law. So, but they already have that entertained self-value. Locations, areas, and states employed since before computers. The laws were so sick in extent and everything was sustained. Don't forget, against Native Americans first, too. They made them fight with each other. And you guys, don't forget, self-value. Criminally foreign influenced receptions on American history